Welcome to the week, ma'am.
Thank you.
With the nature and character of modern war changing, and we are into the era of unmanned systems now, much more than ever before. So, what is the role of sensors, which is a key critical element in military equipment? So, what is the role of sensors?
See, basically, when we send out an autonomous system out into the field, the first thing it has to do is it has to perceive the environment around that. So that is where the sensor plays the major role. Sensors can be going from the complete hyperspectral domain. When we say hyperspectral, from the audio to visual to RF and to quantum. All these levels, if we can perceive all these things and build the intelligence around that, that would be the futuristic of war.
Well, this lab, I mean, we have seen quite a lot of it today, and the primary product this lab is bringing out is the compound chips. How different are compound chips from the normal standard chips that we spoke about, that we talk about?
Right. See, the normal chips, what we use in digital semiconductors, they are basically called as intrinsic semiconductor chips. And I should say that they are the reliable workhorses for all our electronic applications. But when it comes to a radar or a laser or a quantum based system, it is the compound semiconductors that does the job. Why? Because they are the race horses, I call it a race horses, that are built to power, thermal aspects and lighter weight. This is what the compound semiconductors can do across the domain what I had already specified.
And how do, coming down to the basic of it, how do, especially in regard to military like equipment and all, how do sensors sense? If you can explain in very simplistic terms.
In very simplistic terms, I should say is, suppose say when we look at sound, if you look at a sound wave,
acoustics,
you are basically looking at the vibrations. Can I sense these vibrations? The sensing of the vibrations is the MEMS technology. That is what we do it here. The sensing of RF, like if there is a radar that is radiating at me, can I catch that signal? That signal can be caught using this compound semiconductor chips. That is what we are doing as part of the sense activity, which fires any of the super systems like radars, EW, laser, everything. That is how it works.
And in this context now, so how critical are compound chips in the military aspect of things?
See, these are strategic semiconductors. Earlier people, like I should say in 50s, when we started looking at it, the 50s era drove the semiconductor revolution.
50s?
The 50s, 1950s. Until today, the effect of semiconductors in the digital field we have seen. But the compound semiconductors started somewhere late in 80s to see for the commercial exploitation. People were doing work, but for commercial exploitation it started late in the 80s. And these are the things that fire our, today what we call it as AESA radars or mechanical scanless radars what we use, or electronic warfare systems, and latest as this thing, our laser directed energy weapons. These are all fired using compound semiconductors.
Then how many entities in the world, like globally, make compound chips? How cutting edge is this technology at this point of time?
Today I can say in either in gallium nitride or I should say even in the MCD, they call it, basically that is for our IR sensing. We are at the top of the world technologies. There are few countries, I can say US is there, of course some portions of Russia, they are very good at it, and we have China to some extent, what we know about it, Korea and Japan, which work along with US to build this technology. So that way, if we look at it, we are 4th or 5th country in the world who have this kind of a technology, what we have.
So, and in the past, from where did India as a country get its compound chips from?
See, India as a country, I should say, I mean, a small anecdote, I can put it here
Yes.
only. Basically, when we started, I should say that in 2004, when LRD was making the radar,
LRD is can.
Electronics and Radar Development
Yes.
Establishment, which is part of DRDO. I was part of that lab at that time. We were not able to get the chips from any of the outside foundries also. We were not able to get the chips. That jeopardized the program what we were running at that particular point of time. But however, as we started developing the technology ourselves, then we see that, you know, there is something called as make to buy. If you have something, then they are willing to give you. So that make to buy happened when we started working on the chips ourselves.
So, I mean, there was a lot of hesitancy in all these foreign entities giving us these compound chips.
Yes, they were. They were. I should say that two things are there. One is giving of the chips per se. Second is giving of the technology. So when, if you look at it, one of the offset clause the Rafale had to do was on the, you know, technology that can they give us the GaN-based technology. This was with France, we did it. I think that happened in 2016 when we went for the negotiation. But however, we didn't get the technology, but we decided to develop the technology. And I should say 23 was our eureka moment when we got the chips ourselves made.
So it was totally an indigenous effort, and as you quite
100%.
rightly say, necessity is the mother of invention at times.
That's right. That is right. So when that was denied, that forced us to, you know, work on this technology, and that's how this GaN-based technology is 100% homegrown. And today we are state of the art. Our chips are, I mean, appreciated worldwide. I can say that.
They're being also used in strategic systems and satellites. ISRO
Satellites,
uses.
no, ISRO, what satellites that has gone so far has used one level before, one generation before chips, I should say, which was working on gallium arsenide technology. The technology changes that gallium arsenide is a chip of this size of a gallium arsenide will become to half size when it comes to gallium nitride. That chips we have started, but they have used our gallium arsenide technology for doing that.
And also there was, you know, it was the former president and a top scientist of the country, Dr. Kalam, actually, who.
Yeah, it was his brainchild see, we had missed the semiconductor bus at some particular point of time when we realized in our late 90s we had missed the bus. So he thought that it was his vision that we should not lose this compound semiconductor bus, and it was his brainchild that he started giving lot of importance to the research in compound semiconductors, and that's how today we have come, and slowly we have built. Some of the chips have gone, I should say, in many of the space programs and our strategic programs also. And today I can say we are looking upward too, because we are at par with the world technology.
And ma'am, when you started off, what were the challenges, the institutional challenges, the historical, I mean, like what kind of challenges did you face then and the challenges that you face now?
See, the challenges has always remained in terms of, you know, how you can get the technology. There are many papers, many publications that happened. As I walked you through, you saw the importance of recipe, because we are working at atomic levels. So when we look at the atomic levels, a small change in the gas concentration or a temperature variation or a pressure change can change the complete characteristics of the devices what we build. And also the ecosystem that produces all these things, whether we have machineries which are still imported, I should say, and basic gases what we have to get, the purity of the gases, this becomes some of the challenging thing at that time. And at that time we had an additional challenge that our learning curve had begun. But today we are at a little higher level on our learning curve, so we understand the things better to deal with the newer technologies that are coming up.
And ma'am, you know, in this long innings, and what are the kind, I mean, like, you know, you would be having lots of, you know, personal, you know, anecdotes and all about So,
Yeah.
chips and so would
That's
you
it.
like to?
That's what I was telling you. Like many times it so happens that these chips are the center for any of our programs to succeed. As I was telling you, the AVAX program, which I was heading at some point of time, we were scouting for these chips. And if these chips were not available to us, probably the program would have gone.
Yes.
It would have jeopardized the program completely. So when we started looking at it, we came up with the idea that we were looking for some chips that were supposed to come for the power what we needed. When we didn't get it, we decided that we will use our innovative technique to see how this power can be generated. And we did a smart thing of combining many 65-watt chips which were commercially available. For commerce it was, for other purposes it was available. We combined these chips and we made the radar. That is when they opened up the complete embargo on the chips of higher power. That's what happens, and that is Western world.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, madam, for
Thank
talking
you.
to the week.
Thank you.
All the best,
Thanks.
madam.
Thanks a lot.